Greetings, fellow investors. This is the Truth About Real Estate Investing show for Canadians. And we have something wee different today in that our guest is an AI expert. That's artificial intelligence. In 15 minutes, this is a part of his story. In 15 minutes of using a free AI voice cloning generator, Nicholas was able to clone his own voice and break into his own banking account, beating a $100 million voice security investment made by the bank. Now that's a Bay Street bank that we can all name, and that's just $100 million is the investment made by just one bank. Can you imagine how much banks around the world have invested in voice security software? Anyways, so no surprise, a week later, Nicholas was on the call with the CEO of, again, that same bank, one of the big 5 Canadian banks, asking him for advice on what to do with their $100 million investment security software. Don't worry, even though we are discussing AI, we will talk more about the implications of AI in real estate, its threats and opportunities, as this is a real estate investing show for Canadians. Our guest is also Canadian. He's from Vancouver area. Anyways, before we get to Nicholas, I've had many portfolio Zoom calls with clients and listeners of the show. The feedback has been excellent. No surprise. Pat on the back. Everyone has been grateful to have someone as experienced as my coaches and I to bounce ideas off of, whether it was to buy or sell or refinance that property or find a more aggressive lender. I made some introductions for folks to a lot of credit unions, for example. So a lot of people are having challenges getting lenders these days. So credit unions, that's our own experience as well, is to go to credit unions. Not everyone knows which one credit unions to use or have contacts there. But anyways, we had questions around like hiring coaches, even stock and stock option discussions. So very fascinating stuff. Always fun to talk to people. And it's always a nice feeling to make a difference in people's lives, especially as the demand is, the fears especially is higher than ever with high interest rates, and the market is really slowing down for the sale of especially tenanted properties. When you dig into the research of what's actually selling, properties are still selling out there. It's July is actually, Toronto real estate market wise, July is actually very similar to February. There's always transactions going on, even in pre-construction condos. I read an article in the Globe and Mail just yesterday. I've included a link in the show notes. Anyways, pre-construction condos are even still selling, but the price has to be in the $1,300 per square foot. Anything above 1,400 square feet, per the article in the Globe and Mail, is they're not moving at all. Now understand, $1,300 to $1,400 per square foot, that's well below what the prices were near the peak before interest rates started going up. Because I was seeing regularly $1,600, $1,700 per square foot, even luxury condos at over $2,000 a square foot. So we are well off those numbers. So yeah, deals are to be had for some who can. Entry level, also understand that entry level, which means less expensive, more affordable properties for each market, they're still in high demand. And that's, again, don't believe me, you can go look at TREB's data, so Toronto Regional Real Estate Board's July data. It was released about a week ago. But anecdotally, investors are taking the summer off. That's our experience, and the experience that's being shared by many investors, because I've never had so many people send me their properties for sale. And I've spoken to many of them. Again, many people are quite longer on the days on market compared to the rest of the market, because again, tenanted properties are not the flavor of the month. Commercial sales are way off of last year. Again, going back to TREB's real estate data, July data, commercial sales, July over July from 12 months ago are down 47%, over 47% from the previous year. That's almost half. Commercial office rents are way down at 13% year over year. Even worse, retail rents are even worse. They're off. They're down 26% compared to last year July. And last year July was not a good month for the economy, because we were in the middle of all these interest rate increases, right? Anyways, yeah, because I don't know who was wanting to jump into the market to sign a lease in July last year in the middle of a looming recession and raising rates. Rates, they're high. And there's a small chance of another rate increase this fall. We'll see. It's maybe like a 1 in 6 chance. We'll see. We still have recession looming. We've been talking about recession for the last 2 years or so. It's either looming or it's here. But no, recessions don't seem to affect Taylor Swift concert goers. Like, seriously, folks. Taylor Swift announced 6 concert dates at the Sky Dome. I know it's officially the Rogers Center. To me, it's always the Sky Dome. That's a record for number of concerts. Approximately 300,000 tickets will be made available, and for everyone that pre-registered, more people pre-registered than there were tickets. They had basically a 1 in 400 chance of getting on the buyers list, right? So that's insane. Anyways, and these tickets, I'm going to guess, are well over $200 each, even for nosebleeds. We'll see. This is going to be fascinating. I did not register. I have no interest in going personally. I'm not going to spend that kind of money. Anyways, with cash flow only possible to those who have larger down payments, it's going to be a rough time for income property sellers, and that includes commercial properties, until we see a rate cut, until these people can feel more confidence that interest rates are going down. And when we do, the crisis in the housing market for tenants is going to get even worse. As mostly those who are buying these days, they're buying to live. So if they're buying an income property, they're likely evicting one of the tenants so they can move into for themselves. Really sad times. So short term, it's crazy times. Long term, the situation gets way worse as property prices should continue to appreciate while rates go down. Inflation is real and here to stay, such as elevated construction costs that are mostly here to stay. Again, tenants will bear the worst of the housing crisis. Our new federal housing minister, who was the immigration minister via the Trudeau cabinet shuffle, so under his watch, it's the new federal housing minister. It's under his watch that the immigration numbers ballooned during his while it was his portfolio. He says reducing immigration is not even the answer, but instead increasing housing supply and targets. Understand, like, these targets are, no one's making them already as is, and we're doomed. I don't know how this happens. I don't know how the new federal housing minister will achieve these goals of greater supply with higher building costs and short labor supply in construction. Add to that, we have a healthcare system that's suffering from all the demand on it. So what to do? If I'm a parent, which I am, I'm doing all I can to ensure my kids and grandkids will have a place to call home that no one can take away from them, as in home ownership. Home ownership with manageable costs. Manageable would be something like under 30% of household income. For any Canadian is a key requirement to being happy in life. If you don't believe me, go ask anyone who's stressed about their mortgage payments. They're likely about 30% of their household income. Even better, for real estate investors, it's even better when tenants pay all the operating costs and mortgage payments which is what my clients' income properties generally do, unless they're leveraged. So, over leveraged. So we allow the tenants to pay off those properties, and in 20 to 30 years, my clients have a mortgage-free, free and clear income property that generates thousands in cash flow each month. We may all need that cash flow as well for private health care, because the way the public health care system is going, how it's bursting at the seams, this seems to be the way to go. Private health care, take care of yourselves. And to take care of yourself, you probably need to make a bit more money or become a doctor. And if you're a doctor, I want to be your friend. Anyways, at the end of the day, inflation's bad, especially in housing, where it will only get worse. Make the decision today to get educated and take action. Each month, we offer free online monthly iWin meetings where we share what our clients are doing to achieve financial peace through owning high-quality income properties. And at a nominal cost, we do in-person mastermind tours, which are on the street, inside actual and potential income properties that have made our clients millionaires and multimillionaires as a side hustle. If you're interested, make sure you're staying connected with us and sign up for our newsletter along with the 10,000 plus of Canada's eye-winningest real estate investors. Simply enter your name and email on the right-hand side, and you'll be informed of our upcoming events and newly released episodes of this show and show notes, which are useful so you don't have to try to write down people's email addresses while you're driving. Anyways, in the long term, the sophisticated investor holding high-quality assets will win. The game of Monopoly is won by owning properties and collecting rent. Those who pay rent in Monopoly don't fare nearly as well. Make sure you're on the winning side. On to this week's show, where we discuss deflation, and how to be on the winning side of AI. Our guest, Nicholas Ning, likes solving complex problems, making them easy to understand and creating value. That's why him and I get along. I saw Nick at a wonderful. He gave a wonderful presentation at a conference I attended in Victoria, BC, just a few months ago. Over the last 10 years, he's worked with Fortune 500 companies on multi-billion-dollar projects around the world in strategy, finance, design, and marketing. He's also been hired by real estate companies, big-time developers. Likely you would know their name if we said them, but for privacy reasons we can't. He's been hired to design Nicholas has been hired to design business models to use AI tools, numerous AI tools to design and market real estate projects. And he's here today to share how we small investors may do the same. So we're all here to borrow some of these ideas and apply them to our own businesses. Nicholas shares the story of using AI tools to break into his own bank, what him and the bank CEO discussed, why the hype in AI is justified, tools he's used to build a business website to sell furniture in 15 minutes for what a traditional marketing firm would want $35,000 to $60,000 for, and it would take like 6 months. The moment Nicholas saw the writing on the wall that his day job was at risk, and he resigned, at risk to AI, that is, and he resigned. We make some government jokes about that as well. What he'd be teaching his children, if he had children, what he would be teaching them, how he would be preparing them for the AI revolution, because jobs of the future are going to be different. Let's make no doubt about that. The questions, and also answer the question that we all as investors are asking: are real estate investors safe from AI? I'll let Nicholas answer that. Me personally, I'm using AI tools very frequently, several times a day. I used it I don't know how many times a day, probably about 5 times a day already, before it's even 3 o'clock as I'm recording this. I can't recommend enough that everyone pay attention to what's going on. This episode is a great place to start your journey, so please feel free to share this episode with anyone you care about. I'm personally subscribed to Nicholas's free newsletters, and you can find it at GPT, T as in the drink, TEA, gptea.beehive.com. It's not spelt the easiest, so please just go to the show notes. And his AI consulting firm's website is farpointhq.com. Again, all the links are in the show notes. Please go there. You can find it at our website, www.truthaboutrealestateinvesting.ca. Again, www.truthaboutrealestateinvesting.ca. Please enjoy the show. Hi, Nicholas. What's keeping you busy these days?
The world of AI.
That's pretty deep. I follow some people on Twitter and say, like, these are the hottest 12 new AIs that I discovered this week.
Yeah.
Like 12 a week? I'm still trying to figure out what I can ask ChatGPT to do. Like, for example, I write blog posts, and I haven't yet. I've been writing blog posts since 2010. Once a week. So I thought maybe I should ask ChatGPT to proofread it for me. Still haven't done it yet. So this week it's on my to-do is to ask it to proofread something I've written. I don't know if we can do it.
Keeping up with all the AI tools that come out is a completely untenable task. You can't do it. We've tried to do it, impossible.
What can't you do? What can't you do? Sorry.
Not only like with the pace of model evolutions, and if people on your who are listening don't know what models are, they're just the backends that these AIs are trained on. So you have open source models and they're named after the funniest thing, right? We have Llama or Vicuna or Falcon. So these are the models that power the AIs. So everyone's familiar with GPT. So that's a general pre-transformer. But on top of these models, people are building apps, whether they're specific apps to do things like a chatbot or, a sake recommendation or a wine sommelier. These are all apps built on top of like a GPT.
Mm-hmm.
And so keeping up with all of these apps, not only for generative text, but generative image, generative video, text to speech to text, you can't keep up with all of the new apps that come out. The funny thing though is, we cover a number of these apps that get released, and we play with a number of them within our newsletter. And when GPT-4 came out that week, I think like 400 to 500 of these apps just got obliterated. And then when the new plugins came out, every plugin that was ChatGPT to Gmail extender just gets destroyed because you don't have the distribution. And as soon as these models come out, you're dead.
So it's kind of hard to build a business or model off of existing tech?
The sands are shifting rapidly. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
we're getting into a little the detail earlier than I would like. So can we take a step back, for example?
Okay.
Like I was talking to Dimitri Buterin, for example, and he was sharing how like he's never been so excited
Mm.
for what AI is going to do. Can you think of a time in history where we've had where we're looking at such a large revolutionary anything that's going to
Mm.
change things? Like I don't know. You're the expert at this, but it kind of reminds me of like it makes me think of like the manufacturing revolution
Mm.
of like being able to manufacture with like machinery and stuff. We're not doing everything by hand. What analogies would you make to what this wave of AI tools is like compared to
Mm.
human history?
Fire.
Shit. Prometheus and stealing fire from the gods.
Uh, yeah, I think the really interesting kind of these pivotal instances of AI and what makes AI totally fundamentally different than, let's say, Web3 or crypto was almost the ease of it. And if we use crypto as kind of this analog of the differences between it, whenever you talk to someone in crypto or Web3, they would talk to you about like ERC-20 or keys, or let me talk to you about blockchain technology. And everyone would glaze over. Nobody wants to talk about that, right? Like my mom just like that. I'm trying to cook dinner. Don't talk to me about this. You show anybody, whether it's a kid, your parents, your grandparents, an AI tools, like here, just type in what you're curious about. And the kid could be like, draw me a unicorn on the moon. And then boom, the AI would do it. And the
Mm.
grandparents would be like, write me a story that I could tell my grandkids. Boom, the AI would do it. And so it's got something for everyone. And the ability for it to use NLP, natural language processing, to just take natural language and give you what you want is a massive step change. It's kind of like probably the printing press. You have this explosion of the diffusion of information. And I think for me, what's always been fundamental is when I think about massive global problems like poverty or inequality, inequity, the only leveler that I can see isn't money, it's education. And when we're able to diffuse massive education across broad swaths of population, that's when we kind of start seeing the elevation of the general populace. It's like when people understand contraception and the effects that that has on society. Same goes with AI. You give every kid in Africa or things like this, third world developing countries, laptops. And then these laptops are powered by AI because you don't have teachers. You don't have as many teachers to the population. So that ratio is totally out of whack. But now you have an AI that's available 24 hours or depending on your availability of electricity, but it's infinitely patient and it can just educate your population on what they're curious about whenever they're curious about it. And then so you can just incrementally, yeah, improve that society. I think that's a definite, massive step change.
I feel that even just talking to people, for example, I drive a Tesla. For even just, I remember having conversations with people about autonomous driving, even autopilot, whatnot. And then people always have objections. Like my cousin who used to race go karts, he says, I can see everything. I just angle the mirrors and I can see everything around me. Right. And like, I can do math. What are my odds of beating a calculator? Right. And I feel the same. But again, there's always resistance because again, people's context needs to catch up to whatever the technology is. And like you were saying, it's growing so quickly. It's really difficult to keep up with. Um, but you mentioned earlier, what are some basic things people can like first steps they can do to understand AI, like to start using it in their daily life?
Yeah, for me, it took me about 2 weeks to totally wean off of Google. So my default now is GPT. I go to GPT to everything. Um, one of the things you want to keep in the back of your mind is the nature that you use this new AI technology is fundamentally different than how you used to work for like the last decade or more since Google. Because with Google, now the experience is just awful because it's just riddled with ads and all web pages are just SEO optimized to shit. And so you're just weeding through just tons of fluff to try to parse out the bit of information you're looking for. And usually, if it's for work, chances are you're going to find that piece of information, cut and paste that into some document that you're working in, whether you're taking numbers into Excel or paragraphs into Word and then editing it. Um, with AI, it's different. So instead of jumping back and forth, it's conversational. And so when you give it your initial prompt, you should be prepared to have a conversation with it at length longer than you would on Google. So, for example, on Google, let's say your average site time or your average page visit is 4 seconds, 7 seconds, right? On GPT, it's like 40 seconds or
Oh
two
my
minutes.
lord.
So the way that we work is fundamentally different. So when you start to use GPT, when you start using AI tools, number one would be suspend your disbelief. And this was an interesting insight that I found out with a lot of leaders. So I just presented as a keynote for EO's One Canada conference, and I had a couple leaders come up to me after the talk saying, "I couldn't believe your images were generated by Midjourney,"
Mm-hmm.
because as executives and leaders, one of the great commonalities is that you're all curious. For the most part, you're all relatively ahead of the curve on technological advancements. There are many, many, many leaders today that are early adopters of tech.
Mm-hmm.
And so tons of the audience had access to Midjourney V1 or V2. And then they did what people do, they typed a prompt in, and then the image looked like it was drawn by their niece who's in the second grade. And they're like, yeah, you know, it can't drive a car better than me. It can't paint a picture better than me. It can't write copy better than me. And then so they dismiss it.
Right. Snapshot in time, though. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then you fast forward like 8 months and then boom, the model evolution has outpaced. And then now your new outputs on like V1 on V5.1 looks next to real. And this took less than a year. And so number one is suspending your disbelief and being setting aside that time to just sit down and properly craft a prompt. It's not like write me a viral LinkedIn post. You need to give it context. And what we're so used to doing is this piece by piece going through Google, trying to formulate a holistic view of that answer versus now we have to give it the context. So we almost have to, ChatGPT can't read our minds yet. And so we need to give it that context. You are a blank. Your task is to blank. My goal is to blank, right? And then formulating that prompt and then having that conversation with it. I would say that's where you start.
I think part of the important, like why I'm naturally interested in this subject is after reading Price of Tomorrow, written by Jeff Booth, who's a Canadian. Actually, he's out. He actually lives probably near you. Do you know him?
Build-A-Direct guy, right?
I forget what business he's from, but I know him more for his book and also because he's just a big. He promotes Bitcoin heavily for the practicality of it. But my point is that the book is all about how we need deflation to basically save us all.
Mm.
Right? Technology. We need technology to cause deflation, as in to make everything cheaper, and then hopefully people don't get upset about that because like the iPhone's a perfect example of something that's deflationary. It's a computer in my pocket. It's a camera, it's an MP3 player, whatever. It does all these certain things. And AI, which is a huge blanket term, it looks to be, well, no, sorry, it already is very deflationary technology. But I do want to take a step back because I think people need to understand how good it is already. Because I believe I saw an article that ChatGPT can pass the bar exam. Like I believe it already passed a legal school. in the States. And
Mhm.
more impressively to me, just because I understood it better, was I believe it passed an MBA program at Wharton School of Business,
Mhm.
which is a top 10 business school in the world, right? So then
Mhm.
I think the way I think of it is I have access to someone this smart. I'm still in the free version. So for free, I can get like entry level legal information for free in seconds. So for example, I the disclaimer I have for this show when I have guests who are offering securitized products, I asked ChatGPT to write that legal disclaimer, and then I fed it into 11 Art to read it out for me, so I didn't have to do it. So for anyone who doesn't know 11 Art, like 11 Art made the news because it was used to, I believe, the article was saying that 11 Art, which is an AI tool, was used to the terms deep fake. I'm new to this stuff. I'm old.
Are
But
you mixing up that with 11 Labs?
sorry. Yeah, 11 Labs. Sorry,
Yeah.
apologies. 11 Labs was used to deep fake Joe Rogan to create and I don't know what was in the context. You're familiar with the story? Maybe I should let you
Yes.
share. So yeah, so what happened? Just yeah, please you tell me what happened. How good these tools already are.
Yeah, so there's a lot of like these artificial text to speech or speech to text that's trained on massive amounts of audio data. Uh, there's a number of players. Like the one that you're referring to is a podcast done by Pod AI, but that was Steve Jobs being interviewed by Joe Rogan. And the intro sounds like Joe Rogan, and he asks questions like Joe Rogan. But within that interview, funny enough, Steve Jobs was making references to how his trip to India changed how he thinks and how that impacted the direction at Apple. It's like how you can't make that shit up. Like you can't someone can't go study the life. I mean, they could, but they would need to study the life of Steve Jobs and then almost be like a cutie if you ever watch Genius, where the guy just trails Kanye, but something like that where it would understand the history of Steve Jobs and then see from almost like an anthropological view how that experience shaped directions at Apple and be able to draw the through lines of that. So that's very, very, very difficult. And that speaks to AI's reasoning abilities. But from there, 11 Labs has done it. So you can literally go on YouTube and take, let's just say, an interview with Tom Hanks, and then you just train it on Tom Hanks's voice. And then in 5 minutes, you can just have a synthetic clone of Tom Hanks saying whatever you wanted to say. Noise GPT also does it. There's a handful of these companies, but yeah,
Are
it's
you
wild.
afraid at all? So this is being recorded and put on the internet. Are you
Yeah.
afraid at all about what people can do to abuse this? Like first of all, when I tried it myself, after you suggested the use of 11 Labs, I tried it myself, and I was scared. I was scared because again, my voice is out there on the internet. People can take my voice files and feed it to an AI tool, and then have me say crazy ass shit. Are you concerned at all?
It's outside my locus of control, so I have no control, so it doesn't affect me.
Right, right. Just accept that you can't control it and just like go on living.
It's kind of like, people's fear about AIs and artificial general intelligence and stuff like that. There's a handful of people. There's like 100 people on the face of the planet. There's like less than 1,000 for sure that have their literal hands in the formation of the code base, the training sets. I'm not one of those people. And so being afraid of this thing is just like I can do nothing to control it. And so I don't worry about it. That being said, though, like, taking precautionary measures, not being stupid with it, it also does point a good use case for why there should be new, like even the most basic things, you know, uh, if there are instances where you get a call and you think it's someone, maybe there's, like a voice password that's very obscure. And then so whenever you're getting a call, you can just ask, like, what's our voice password? and it could be as obscure as like one of the moons of Jupiter is Titan. And then that would just be like your voice passphrase, something like that. It's an or some audio equivalent of a captcha. But yeah, without those things being in the advent, then there's nothing I can do. So I'm not afraid.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I think we need to take a step back and let's start with like, what did you go to school for? Like, how did you become an AI expert? Let's start with school.
Okay, so I will clear something. I want to like set this. I don't like the expert things, and it's kind of biased from I feel like these massively consolidated windows of hype cycles, whether
Hmm.
it's crypto or NFTs, and I just had so many of these like so-called experts, and every time I'm on LinkedIn or Twitter or any of these things, it's just like you're using ChatGPT wrong. 99% of the population do this, but if you want to be that 1%, do this instead. And like, everyone's a self-proclaimed AI expert right now. I do not conflate myself with being an expert in this area. Um, okay, long-winded way. I went to school for engineering. So did a double major in business and engineering, mechatronic systems engineering.
Your parents
And
must be so proud because you look Asian, so I'm pretty sure you have Asian parents. It's double major engineering MBA.
yeah,
I'm an Asian parent, so I know I'd be like, yeah, guess what my kids did. I'm sorry. Continue. Apologies. Can you clarify engineering? Computer, civil, chemical,
so no, mechatronic systems engineering is,
mechatronics.
yeah, it's kind of like robotics. I'm better on the hardware side as opposed to software. I actually want to be an astronaut, but I have a deformative eye condition, so I can't. I'm legally blind in my left eye, and so I'm eligible for flight, so I can't fly. But if I crush it with my company, then I'll just buy a ticket. Just I'll just fly up with Elon. That'd be cool. But yeah, from there, I mean, as soon as I was kind of like out of it, and I worked on hybridmers, which are the stuff on solar arrays, solar panels. There's a lot of applications for hybridmers. Essentially, just think about it. A hybrimer runs on this. It's like a technology called substrates, and the way you think about it is like an Oreo cookie. And so with an Oreo cookie, you have like two biscuits and a layer of cream. That's what a substrate is. So you have two layers of, a composite like polymer and glass or, something. And then on your cream, you have a whatever conductive material like silver nano-oxide or anything like that. But basically, you're just making like films. So I worked on that, super boring. And then I kind of just came to the realization that I would never be like a CTO. I've met people in that program who are prodigious. They they just their ovens just burn hotter than mine. I can't function at that level. And so I just saw it as if I continue on this course, I'm just going to have a very good paying dead end job. And yeah, I left, went into fashion. I was a fashion designer. I helped on like made to measure and stuff like that. Worked on Savile Row for a bit. I've worked with like couture houses like Zegna or Tom Ford and Stefano Ricci. Yeah, left that, became a chef. I was a cook for a while and then went into finance, uh, pivoted into software. I was a director of marketing at a SaaS CRM company. Hardware, I was a consultant doing strategy work for clients like Moderna. And then, yeah, saw the writing on the wall with AI. I quit, and here we are.
What was that moment? What was that moment where you saw the writing on the wall with AI?
I had access to GPT-2 when it was in closed beta,
Sorry, what year was that?
uh, 2020, late 2021. So in the heart of COVID. And with GPT-2, I could get it to just like the realization that you're having with GPT-3, where it can help write legal documents for you. GPT-2 could, when I was using it within consulting, these companies, whether it's McKinsey or Bain or KPMG, they have armies of analysts, right? Your undergrads that come out and they're doing all of this primary and secondary research. They're doing interviews, they're doing competitive analysis, heuristic analysis on these companies. GPT-2 could do that job at almost a better level than most junior analysts. And that was 2. We're on 4 now. And so I was looking at that with an overlay of how far back these models were going and how quickly they were advancing. And I was just making like some rough predictions that based on current trajectory, I think I'm going to be out of a job in 9 months. Like a model would be good enough to put me out of a job. And so I kind of just saw the writing on the wall and I quit and went full-time into AI. And yeah, here we are. There's been like a number of pivotal moments within my own journey that have shaped my own insights on workflows and how these things are used in day-to-day life that might be contrarian to how most people think about it. But they have been very formative in our own positions and our own structures of how we conduct business and how we think about the macro landscape. We can touch on those, but yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying what I went to school for.
Could you send some tips to Justin Trudeau so maybe we can cut down on our McKinsey bill?
Yeah, we can.
And there's deflation for you, right?
Yeah.
And we'd, as taxpayers, I'm sure we'd all appreciate saving some money.
Mm-hmm.
So that was 2 years ago, and you thought you'd be out of a job in 9 months, and that was version 2. Version 4 is available now.
That's right.
So what does it mean that you got into AI full time? Tell us what you do now. Can you actually was that bank story part of your being full time in AI? Can you share the bank story?
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone listening, I'm assuming most of your listeners are Canadians.
Yeah.
I mean, almost all major banks use this technology. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Over 90% of our listeners are Canadian, and what? Doesn't every adult have a bank account?
Yep.
And then real estate investors have numerous. Sorry,
Right.
continue.
Okay. So assuming you're Canadian, I mean, you could be anywhere and all major banks use this technology, but as part of, a mandate or not, but as part of a bank initiative, they were trying to open channels for accessibility, right? People who might be vision impaired, things like that, they would use voice recognition as an entry point into accessing, banking services, checking your invoice, I have a lost credit card, customer support, things like that. So when you call your bank through your cell phone and you hit like 7 or something like that, you're going to be met with, welcome to your voice recognition. Please say, my voice is my password. And then their software on their end would match your voice against the recorded voice, which I believe they gathered they send you a consent form, but when they say this call is being monitored for customer support and for training purposes, that's what they're doing, right? So they're recording your voice and they can use that as training data. So let's say they have,
Oh shit.
right? Like, I don't know how long your calls are with your bank. Let's say if you have a really stressful customer support, let's just say it's 30 minutes, but the average might be 5, right? You call them
But
4
almost every big corporation says that.
Oh yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I know. They have your shit.
Oh shit. Sorry, continue. I think the listeners knows where we're going, but you have a really good story behind this. Sorry.
So yeah, they have your voice data, and then they use that to train their own program to do voice recognition. So then when you call in, they will say your voice is my password, or my voice is my password. So you say that and they match it against your thing. And then it's like, welcome, or when your balance is blank, right? So all major banks have this technology. And chances are you were given a thing that you didn't even think about. They just like sent you either like a text message or on your last call with them, some customer service representative might have said, we've just opened our new voice recognition system. It makes it easier for you to log in instead of you having to type in either your PIN or your card number. You can just say, my voice is my password, and then you will get into your account. And so tons of people obviously opted in because they don't think twice. It's just like, when did you read your terms and conditions?
Yeah, and you trust your bank generally. People generally trust
And
their
you,
bank.
right.
Yeah.
And so you've enabled this thing.
Oh boy.
And with current AI technology, like the one you just mentioned with 11 Labs, you can take less than a 5-minute snippet of your voice, create a synthetic clone, and it will blow through your TD or your bank's voice recognition system. So I ran this penetration test against my own bank, and using like a 5-minute audio clip, I blew through it. And so it's like a bank spent north of $100 million.
One bank.
Yeah.
Oh my god. One
Yeah.
bank spent 100 million.
Yeah. Developing this tech. And it's not so much the tech as like the procurement, the teams, the time, the consultants, all the little nuances that go into why so many things within company initiatives are bloated. But yeah, it costs a shit ton of money. And
Right.
so all banks, it's not Canadian, it's US, European, international banks all use this. But current AI technologies, I can just go through and get your banking.
Yeah, we should probably cut this off because we're giving people ideas because they have our voice now.
Yeah, but you can't turn it off. You do not need to have voice recognition enabled. You can and you should turn that off.
Now, someone called you, right? You got the attention of some banks.
Yeah, I got the attention of some banks. I got a call. Funny enough, I was at the KPMG AI Summit, um, and I was getting a call because there was like a senior analyst there who had seen my article, read it, and forwarded it up, and it kept getting forwarded up in the company. And then I had like a VP, and I also had a CEO of another financial institution call me. I'm like, what do you mean you did this? How did you do this? Do you want me to walk you through how I did this? And it
Shit,
it,
they couldn't figure it out themselves.
it was yeah, they're just so unapprised of the technologies. It's wild.
They have $100 million budget for this. They
So
couldn't
here's a
figure out how to
crazy
break
stat.
it.
A crazy stat right now is over 56%, probably 60% now of the population has heard about ChatGPT. Less than 12% of people have used it. And less than 20% of that 12% have used it daily. And then there's a fraction of those people who are proficient. And so, like you said, you have this massive deflationary technology at your fingertips, and yet how many people are really using it to its full capabilities? So yeah, when you think about your lives, and it does make sense, right? As leaders or as CEOs, there's kind of like that spotlight bias where our lives are the most important things, and the complexities of our lives get in the way. No CEO, no C-suite, no executive is going to sit down and learn prompt engineering. They're not going to do it. They're not going to go spend a day curating AI tools. And so with those constraints, like it is not surprising that you're not apprised of the current development of AI technologies and how they can break your current security systems.
But like you said though, like for daily use, I've already, just like you, I've replaced by Googling with
Mm,
asking ChatGPT. Because again, just like your experience, well, you know, someone who spent the money to be SEO to order to return their page to the top of the search, like they're generally a capitalist business and they have an agenda.
mm,
And even if they don't, the worst example is when I Google for a recipe and then there's a huge story.
Yep.
I
Just give me the ingredients.
I just want the ingredients and what temperature to cook at. So scroll, scroll, swipe, 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 swipe
Yeah.
to get to what I want,
Yep.
right? Like, like I just yeah. So again, so like you said, and I think this is where a great use case for everyone is to start using it in their daily lives, just to replace the use of Google. And prior to that, people, in case anyone's still using Yahoo to ask it questions, use ChatGPT and it's free. And I have the app on my phone. As soon as you said there was, I didn't even know there was the app on the Apple. I have an iPhone, so I installed that right away. So it's really easy to get at. And it's
Mm.
free. I'm still in the free version. I'm cheap. We'll get to the paid. I just get so much value out of the free version.
Oh, you're gonna get like a 50x at least value out of the paid.
Good
It'll
lord.
be game changing for you.
Good lord. It's actually funny. I caught it. I caught it in a mistake. I was doing some research. I asked Chat again the free version. I asked it, name me the post-secondary schools in Kingston, Ontario, because I was just doing some research, and it gave me two. And I
Mm.
thought, and then I asked it, what about Royal Military College? And then it apologized to me. My apologies, I missed it. So that's what you get for being free. But actually, that goes to your point in your presentation that you gave. You still need someone. You still need someone who knows something to be
Mm.
monitoring it, right? Because you gave the analogy that this replaces like like a 1 or 2 year experienced uh, employee.
Mm.
So that's a great example because as a business owner, the rule of thumb that we were often given is if the employee can do 80% of what you can do, that's a good employee.
Mm.
So we still have to be there for like the 20-40% in order to steer things and monitor. Am I right?
Yep.
Right. And you made actually before we move on, I want like you mentioned like a CEO of a big multi-billion-dollar uh, publicly traded company that we can all name was the one that called you, got on a phone call with you,
Yep.
right? So this is a big deal. Like you really got their attention.
Yeah, it does not feel good when an initiative you spent multi-million dollars on many years gets blown up by 5 minutes of AI
You're
training.
playing around.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like a kid. Yeah, this is like those 80s movies when you've got like a teenager on,
Yeah,
one of the first PCs hacked through nuclear codes kind of moment.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like that science fiction book where like the child commands the fleet to save
Mm,
humanity.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
what's
Ender's
that called?
Game.
Ender's Game. This is like Ender's Game.
Dude, I'm such a nerd.
Yeah. Not gonna call you Enders, but it was probably like that moment. Like you, because the CEO was probably 50, 60 years old, gray hair, makes a lot of money,
Mm.
right? Has like thousands of employees.
And I'm over here like, let me destroy you.
Oh my god. Yeah, like yeah, and yeah. If anyone hasn't watched the movies Ender's Game or read the book, like highly recommend. It was so awesome.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah, and actually, I thought they did a pretty good job with the movie too. I
Me
thought
too.
they honored the book well enough with the movie. Not perfectly, but the book was better. But yeah, and I'm so naive. It caught me. It got me. The surprise ending. But yeah. Anyways, let's move on. But yeah, like everyone's gonna have that moment. Like will have that moment where like they realize like this is the thing,
Mm.
right? And to uh like this is to me this is again, like you said, like this is like the printing press, this is enormous. To me, this is bigger than the crypto fad, NFT fad. Like, and not then this isn't even a fad. It almost
Mm.
feels like it just because there's like the hype cycle is really hot right now.
Yep.
If you don't believe me, anyone just go look at Microsoft or Google stock right now. Like they're just flying, like all time
Mm.
high. Microsoft's at way all time highs. So we're early in the hype cycle, but this has legs.
Yeah.
Okay, where else do we go? Okay, sorry. Well, I asked you on the show because in the presentation that you gave to EO, I'm an EO member, 3.5 year member. In the presentation you gave, you mentioned that you're doing marketing work for people already. So I wanted to bring this into something that the listener can appreciate, right? So, for example, you're already helping large companies, like very large companies, build marketing campaigns.
Mhm.
Like for example, the example that you gave was like you built a very nice web page landing page with not much effort
Mhm.
and something you did alone, which a marketing company would have charged a small fortune for. To me, a small
Mhm.
fortune would be 50 grand. To me, that's a small
Mhm.
fortune.
Mhm.
Can you elaborate on what the process is like?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to take a step back for your listeners, who some of them are, whether you're sole proprietors or you run companies, you're right about the an 80% an employee that can take 80% of your job is a good employee, right? Of your tasks. When you look at AI capabilities and things like this, one of the cautions that I tell our partners is AI is not do not conflate AI with a Staples big easy button. You know that button where you're just like, that was easy, and you click this button and it's done. That's not what AI does. And there are almost catastrophic dangers, as current cases have shown. The lawyer who got GPT to cite case precedent for one of the airlines that it was creating an argument for. It made it up, but the lawyer would have caught it if he looked. And this is where what AI has really done is it shifted people from content creators to editors. But you cannot just type in a prompt and then let it run and submit it, or you shouldn't. That's just a recipe for disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, respect to current workflows, yes, we deal with enterprise clients across traditional sectors. So, one of our top sectors is real estate. We also play heavily in finance and banking and healthcare. Um, so, when we look at real estate, a big aspect of that, if you're a developer, is marketing, presentation centers, landing pages, things like this. So one of our first examples that I did outside of real estate that was a good use case for this current application was there's a mom and dad out of Stockholm who just makes furniture, right? Imagine a Scandinavian design, very minimalist, well crafted, very warm,
Like
but
IKEA.
like IKEA, exactly like IKEA. Right, just imagine your Hugli chair, and you have this wonderful piece of furniture, but they can't make websites for shit,
Yeah.
and they don't have money, exactly like you said, your small fortune to hire a full-time UI UX developer, web developer. So how do you do it?
So sorry, just to give context, how much do you think? How much would a firm would have charged these people?
60, 40 to 60? Yeah, like this is, and they would pitch it with like, I'm going to make you a design system. I'm going to make you, your brand guidelines. I'm going to not only create your web page, but it's going to be optimized for SEO and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. And then you're going to go back and forth. You're going to have some of your own opinions. And it's like, oh, I don't really love this color. And then you're going to have a couple of edits back with the firm. It's going to take you 3 to 6 months, right? And then you're going to have interviews like, what do you imagine your brand to be? What are your attributes? And they're going to try to formulate the image around that.
Right.
And then you're going to
So it's a
get
lot
like,
of time in your mind cycles.
yeah,
It's not just the money.
it's not even just the time. I mean, it's not just the money, it's also the time. Exactly. And then you're going to get, a mock-up and then a prototype, and then you're going to get something in a sandbox, and you're like, okay, cool, let's launch that. So now with I can get ChatGPT to write the copy. I can use Midjourney to create designs. I can use Vectorizer to vector the images and to upscale so that they're SVG. So we can, do responsive testing on it. So it can be responsive for both desktop and mobile. And then get UI Zard. They have an AI that can just create apps. You can literally just tell it the app and it'll create an app in like 30 seconds. And then you can push all of that into Figma, and there's an add-on within Figma, which is a design program that converts your designs directly into HTML. And so that whole workflow, if you run it correctly, that took me about 12 minutes. And they had a fully functioning Shopify integrated front end landing page that sells a beautiful chair written with well crafted, persuasive copy for $5. 25 if you include the GPT Pro. That's crazy. And then so let's take that one example for a mom and pop furniture shop to a real estate company who's doing a multi-million-dollar development. And what is going to entice people to come to your presentation center? A beautiful landing page, right? Now selling this in Coquitlam, own your beautiful 2-bedroom suite overlooking part of blah, 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 blah.
Sorry, should I just pause, Nicholas? A lot of our listeners are from Ontario, so Coquitlam is in British Columbia.
Okay.
Apologies. Sorry, continue.
Right. I mean, like, I don't know if there are towers going up in Brampton, but, same kind of,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we have the same housing crisis you do in BC. Yeah.
And all it takes is understanding the basic components behind a landing page. All right. And there's like 3, 4 tops. You have your images, that's one component. You have your logo, that's another component, and then your copy.
Yeah.
And so all of those
those are all created, right? Like the image, like for a developer, for example, the images, the building doesn't exist. So you have artist renditions.
Exactly.
Now it's AI renditions. Is that the term?
Yeah.
Mid-journey renditions.
So one of the things that we're trying to build out, it's not fully fleshed out, but it does work. We're piloting it with a developer right now. They gave us a floor plan, like a schematic. And then we gave it to an AI, and then it's colorized it and created renderings of it. And so I don't need an artist anymore. I could have one to double check it, but I don't need it.
My God, that sounds complicated.
It's more complicated than you think, but also like less time than you might think. But
no, I mean like for someone to execute that, like a human being to execute that, that sounds complicated.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure. I think these are the interesting findings that we're discovering with all of our work because we're sector agnostic. I'm learning all of the nuances within a sector specific workflow that I was never privy to before. Like I never understood how it goes from like a topological stand to, a civil engineer creating this blueprint that goes to an architect or blah, 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 that goes to this final product and all the pieces in between. But every little piece of that is an area where AI can intervene today.
So sorry, Nicholas. So just I'm trying to understand what you're explaining. So you give it a floor plan,
Yeah.
and it's going to basically give you an artist rendition of the finished product,
Yes.
and furnish and digitally furnish it, I guess.
I mean, this is an exterior facade, but I've also demonstrated that I can just give it a floor plan and it can create different renderings of any style that you want. So you can give it a floor plan, just like a blank 2,300 square foot unit. That's nothing, right? And then you can prompt the AI to say, render this in mid-century or minimalist or Art Deco, and it'll do it. And so you don't need stagers either.
So sorry. So like a lot of investors, they have rental properties, and so they have pictures, and then no one likes pictures of a vacant property, right?
Exactly.
So could I just use something like a Mid-Journey to input my pictures and ask it to stage it?
Yes.
What's that going to cost me?
$10 a month.
Because the price the market rate is about $100 per picture.
Okay. Yeah, you get 200 hours of render time. That's going to generate you hundreds of pictures for $10.
And sorry, for the listeners' benefit, Mid-Journey is the way to do it.
There's also like real estate specific. We're developing something proprietary, but open source stuff, like you could use interior.ai. There's a number of tools. I can send you a list. You can put them in your show notes that they can use today. They're open source or free. You can like You can even upload a picture of a messy apartment. Like, let's just say that your buddies threw a
Like my house,
rager.
yeah.
Sure, right? Like Cheerios everywhere, milk on the walls. You
Hoarder
can
house.
right everywhere, strewn about. You can take a picture of that, upload it, and then you can tell AI to like render this in, a simplistic Japanese Zen kind of thing, and it'll do it.
So this is deflationary, and hopefully listeners are paying attention because this will save you money. And if you're, for the list, I'm talking to the listener. If you're posting pictures of your rental property and the property is not staged digitally, like that's a mistake. Especially when you're saying it's $10 a month at worst. And then you just cut it off once you're done. Just turn it off after you're done your pictures, and then turn it back on when you need to do it again. Wow, this is insane.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Oh, so sorry. So sorry. Let's continue with your working. However you want to go. We continue working with the talking about the developer or any other sectors.
I mean, like this is one of our core thesis is AI will penetrate every sector. And this is why we have structured the firm to be sector agnostic and not niche in. The degree of penetration of sectors will vary. Like accounting, legal are going to get hit really hard. I'm already seeing, I'm getting calls, a ton of them from legal firms, everything from conveyancing, contracting, an AI can already be trained on legal contracts and then redline your contracts autonomously. And it'll do a better job than legal assistants, paralegals, things like that today, right now. You can, I can also give you current benchmark tests on AI capabilities. AIs will perform 88% better on core legal tasks. AIs perform 86% better than doctors in hospital settings. You're right. One of the first instances that we covered was an AI completing an MBA program at Wharton. But from there, it's also, surpassed tons of human standardized testing. So,
I think in medical, I read is in Jeff Booth's book, Price of Tomorrow. It's already AI is already ahead of radiologists,
hmm,
which is again like for people who are afraid of AI, like we're talking about early detection of cancer,
hmm,
and it doesn't need to sleep. Works
yep,
24 hours a day. It's more accurate, and just as important, accurate prediction of cancer, so that we're not prescribing chemotherapy to someone who doesn't need it.
hmm.
Right? Like, so for anyone considering radiology as a career, because that would just was like I think that's like the most extreme case of AI being so much better.
Yep.
Uh,
But yeah,
I don't know.
there's,
I got
there's
chills. I don't know if the listener has chills, but I have chills. Because again, like I almost no one's not been affected by cancer, right?
mhm,
Right? This is this is incredibly important for changing our lives.
mhm.
And again, like think for listeners' benefit, think downstream. Early detection of cancer means better quality of life for that patient, less healthcare costs, right? They don't need a bed in the hospital, so it's less stress on our most limited resources, which is generally doctors and nurses,
Mhm.
right? And again, like I think the cost, I forget how much it costs to occupy a bed, but again, so general point, this deflationary and better quality of life if all this stuff works. So we need to cheer this stuff on and not to be afraid of it.
Yeah.
Stupid. It's really dumb of me again because I'm a nerd. I always think of like Star Trek as like where we're gonna be in a world where money doesn't matter because it doesn't matter anymore. There's no scarcity anymore. I don't know how we
Mhm.
ever get there.
Replicator. You get there with a replicator.
Yeah, and I imagine that thing takes a lot of energy, but right now energy is expensive. Again, this is Star Trek geek stuff, but again, we need deflationary pressures because again, we're all suffering from inflation right now, and yeah, can you bring this to the food sector? I'm paying too much money for my beef.
Do our best.
So you were talking about accounting and legal being replaced. So sorry. The first thing that popped in my mind was that I've seen some things where this says that you should keep do not put proprietary information into ChatGPT, for example. Like, so for example, don't put your private information. So don't give it your SIN number is probably a good example. So how would someone actually go about, like, saying reviewing legal documents or anything accounting related? So I'm biased, obviously. My wife has an accounting firm. So how would someone use AI to help them in their daily lives in accounting or legal? And then stay safe and not
Yeah.
feed it anything private.
Yeah, great question. There's a number of ways around this. So number one is just, if you're a sole proprietor or if you're just a personal account using GPT, just go into your settings today. And then there's literally a button that says data controls. And then you can toggle off chat history. And what this does is your chats will no longer be used for training data. It won't be included in future training sets. This is like the incognito mode of
Got it.
ChatGPT.
And we can trust it.
It's as moot as saying, like, can we trust Facebook? Right? Like, look at all the crap that you posted on Facebook. Look at all I'm not insinuating anything, but like, look at the things that people have potentially sent on Snapchat.
Yeah.
They are way worse than like what you are prompting a GPT with. And so it's like, can we trust it? It's like, yeah, trust Snapchat.
Don't trust anything on the internet.
There you go.
Right.
So you're tossing up. This is actually, we don't have to get into this on the call, but this is an interesting application of a concept of the Pareto frontier. And the Pareto frontier is a multi-objective optimization problem, but it's really interesting. This is also how you like solve the AI alignment problem. I mean, a quick high level is just like you have two opposing forces and neither forces can be maximized because it will break the system. And an example would be within AI, one objective that you want to optimize for is helpfulness. You want an AI to be helpful, right? But if we maximized that objective, then you can ask it, like, give me step-by-step instructions on building a nuke. And it will give it to you because it's maximally helpful. Rank the races of the world from worst to best, and it will do it for you. So that is maximally helpful, but it's harmful. And so if we optimize on the flip side for harmlessness, that an AI shouldn't harm us, then it would be totally useless. Because if we asked it to anything for it to satisfy a maximum objective of harmlessness, it can't answer. Because that is the only way that it can reach that maximum peak. So in both use cases, they're unusable. And so the Pareto frontier is the point at which both points are maximally optimized. But yeah, that point is an interesting one because this is probably one of the first examples where throughout the entire collective human history, we've operated on trial and error. This is kind of one area where we can't really fuck it up. And there's a probable non-zero chance that we'll fuck it up.
It's interesting because I study some basic philosophies, nothing that sophisticated. Like, for example, like the philosophy of charity. But charity's been around for a long time. Like you're discovering new things every day. The philosophy behind anything AI's got to be difficult.
It's a fun place to work though, for sure.
What are some
Oh, sorry. And just quickly going back to answering your question. So one is, going back to your accountants. So turning on private mode, but two is if you're a company, there's an enterprise version of GPT. And so on enterprise, you can remove your company's data from the training sets. And then lastly, it's just like if you really want to go gung-ho with it, we've done it. We've had requests for a couple of companies, and then we're walking them through why and why not you should do this, but you can have a localized model that just runs locally within your company that's trained on all of your data. And so because it's localized, it's not on the cloud, it will be used on any future models. So those are the three ways.
For the listeners' benefit, here's an example, a real example. I was on a call with again a bunch of leaders, and one was a software development house. so they're one thing that they were doing was they were getting off whatever platform they were using that's on that's cloud based where all their code is stored.
Mhm.
So their code is proprietary. So they're switching off to I don't know what is way over my head. But the point is like you do not want anything of yours that's proprietary because that's how a software company makes money is
Mhm.
their software that they've written. So
Dude, did you
if that's out in the
hear
open,
about the Samsung engineers who used GPT and put their source code into it?
they got fired, didn't they?
They got fired. It's
Are they
like
Chinese
billions of
spies? I'm
dollars of
sorry.
source code. And this speaks to like fundamental human heuristics where we're just lazy. And they're just like, we need to get, we need to push out code by end of week. Let's just use this. And like, whoops. Crazy.
And there's no turning it back.
No. Yeah, there's no erase button. There's no undo.
I can recall an email I think on Gmail, but I don't know how accurate it is. So a lot. A real use case I used for accounting, for example, was my assistant asked me, "There's this hotel charge. What should I bill it? What expense category is it?" And then like, hey, come over here, come around. Let's ask ChatGPT. And it said travel. Like so I said to my assistant, like next time ask ChatGPT first. If you need to ask me, tell me ChatGPT said travel. I'm like, that makes sense. So at least don't make me try to use mental cycles to figure it
Mhm.
out. Just, it's a free app. Is that a do you have more complicated examples that people can use in their daily lives for accounting or legal advice?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton. My advice is everybody's got $20. I know 100% of your listeners have $20. Get the Pro. It is game changing. And the reason for that is because they've currently changed the UI of it. But before, when you upgrade, you're going to have two buttons at the top of your screen. One's going to say 3.5, one is going to say 4. 3.5, they used to have these graphics that would show the attributes of the models. And it would just look like if you play video games, your characters have attributes, right? Like Aragon, the sword lord, is maximized on strength, right? But he's slow as shit. And he's got like medium defense. Um, when they were showing these AI models, it was the same. GPT 3.5 is heavily optimized for speed as an attribute, but it is low on confidence and it is low on reasoning. And so when you are using like anything online, like an open source something, you can tell what model it has wrapped within its application based on the speed of the outputs. So if the thing's just like spitting out outputs, it's running 3.5. So you know it has low reasoning. 4, on the other hand, is maximum reasoning, maximum confidence, maximum critical thinking, and on a 3 on speed. But for higher level tasks that you would not trust an intern, GPT-3 is great for writing like a job description or a reference letter or like a birthday card for mom. I would not use it for legal advice. I would use 4 with Bing plugin that has access to the internet to be able to pull recent precedent and make arguments for like potential, legal scenarios. There's a whole gambit around prompt engineering that, we probably don't have time to get into. But yeah, if you're doing anything more complex, I would heavily advise you to use 4,
Which is $20 a month.
which is $20 a month.
But it'll you'll get the newest version every time it's released, I'm guessing.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Eh, So this is. I'm sorry. I can be very childish. I'm currently reading because of the conference. Because of the conference, the one of the speakers mentioned the author of "Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus."
Mm.
So I'm actually wondering if I could put in things my wife says to me and ask ChatGPT to interpret it, translate it into Mars language, but probably only 4.0. Wow, this is also fascinating. I wish I could keep you all day because again, I have chills. Um, Nicholas, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for being so generous with your time. Where can people follow along? I know you have a newsletter. Can you share where people can find your newsletter that's taking people pretty step by step through the basics of AI?
Yeah. Our newsletter is written for non-technical people. We're read by people from Meta, Google, Amazon, Tesla. It's called GPT, tea like the drink. So you can just go gpt.beehive.com and you can check us out there. We've covered every major news break from, a deep fake of the Pope to, legal precedents is being set, pastors writing sermons with GPT, everything. We cover how to write prompts, workflows, everything like that. And if you're looking for AI guidance within your companies, we have a global AI consulting firm. So we advise enterprise clients. Yeah, think your major banks, think your major real estate developers, but that's at Farpoint. So farpointhq.com.
And for the listeners' benefit, I'll have all the links in the show notes.
Yeah.
Nicholas, stupid question. Are real estate investors safe from AI?
Are real estate investors safe from AI? I think, there's more fear than people have, and I think is garnered. I understand why, but if we're leaving on anything, it's probably don't be afraid, be prepared. And there are all of the nuances. You don't know it because it's so innate to you, but there are subtleties within everybody's not only work, but within their own segments and sectors that they've accumulated through the years, whether it's jargon, how do you do personal deals, what are things that I should look out for that intuitively I can just feel is off. People develop spidey senses in whatever aspect of their work, right? And so musicians can hear when something's off pitch. Real estate investors or something can feel when a piece of land is great or something like that. Those nuances are things that AIs can't pick up yet. And these are why it's important for you to be editors. What you want to have AI do, AI solves your 0 to 1 problem. The worst part of writing a book report is staring at a blank page. But if you have your topic sentence or your first body written, you're cooking with gas, right? You're off to the races.
Yeah,
That's
you're
just
80% of the way there. Yeah.
exactly.
Which is much
And
easier than starting from zero.
exactly. And that's what AI allows you to do. So whether you're a real estate investor or an accountant lawyer, think about all of the repetitive, tedious things that you hate to do. Or if you're ideating, artistic renderings, and you're having trouble thinking about other ways that this could be presented, have AI do it. It gets you 80% of the way there, and then you need to rely on your instincts and your accumulated corpus of experience to help guide that final mile. But that's where we're at. I wouldn't be afraid.
And one of my staff is a native Spanish speaker, so English is a second language, and she was having a problem with the shipping company. So she started writing she's trying to write an email that she's upset. And I said, here, give your parameters to ChatGPT, ask it to write an email that you're unhappy with their services. And then boom. 80%, well more than 80% of the way there, especially for someone who's speaking English as a second language, right? So you said something that I'm putting words in your mouth, but you did say them. You had a slide. It was really poignant, and I think it put a lot of my fears at ease. It said AI won't replace you, but someone using AI. Sorry, you remember the slide?
I do.
What did it say?
Yeah, you said exactly right. You won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by someone who uses AI. And I don't care what anybody says. We coined that phrase. This was back in like December. And now everybody is hawking this thing. I wish I had like a royalty or something because I wouldn't need to do this. But yeah, that's exactly it. And it evolves not just from your job. It's your company won't be replaced by AI. It'll be replaced by another company that uses and leverages AI.
Right.
And it also evolves into nations. When we think about if EU closes AI access, those are almost calamitous decisions. But for
Wait, that's not something they're considering, are they?
yeah, like Italy banned GPT. And this is
Shut
why
up.
Canada doesn't have BARD, is because it doesn't comply with GDPR regulations. And so we have all of these data policies. I understand why they're in place, But for companies and for nations to close off an entire populace from this technology is calamitous and detrimental, in my opinion.
Has China done that?
Nope, they have Ernie. Yeah, so that's out of Baidu.
Yeah, Chinese company.
Yeah.
Can you tell I'm like I don't trust much? But I will say I don't think AI is gonna, actually, I don't know, who knows. I don't think AI will replace my ability to be a landlord. People still need a place to live and
Yeah,
sleep at night.
I agree.
Nicholas, any final words you want to share?
No, I'm good. I mean, if you do want to touch on kids and
Oh,
what
yeah, yeah, yeah,
parents,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because before we were recording, I mentioned how Dmitry Buterin, who, the only one I know personally who's raised a billionaire, he has
Mhm.
his kids on using. He allows his kids to play Minecraft and
Roblox.
Roblox. Obviously, I'm young and hip. Yes. What do you do you have kids?
No,
If you had kids, what would they be doing?
they would be on GPT.
How
But
young?
no, no, since I can read, I would say the dangers is in the parent's ability to parent. And as humans, most of the time, we lean towards a path of least resistance, right? This is why the TikTok algorithm works, that you can just keep scrolling and it'll keep giving you what you want. This is why we have Uber. This is why we have DoorDash. We just want easy. We want fast.
Yeah. And
They
sometimes we're even
want
overpaying. Like Amazon's more expensive than alternatives. But yeah,
right. And so as a parent, if we use that heuristic, it's like it's easier to just plunk a kid in front of an iPad than it is to engage parent consistently. And I do not make any claim to understand the hardships of being a parent. And so I get it. That being said, though, what you want to teach kids is critical thinking. And this is something that schools do not. Schools are designed in their current infrastructure to standardize and just print employees, right? If you're going to university, what you're really buying is insurance. Because a good litmus test, how schools really promote themselves is like, we have a teacher to student ratio of, X, and X% of our graduates get placements at these firms or whatever. And that's bullshit, because a true litmus test would be, I want to see the T4s, I want to see the tax returns of your graduates 5 years out. And what is your rate of wage increase? Because that shows me ROI. If I put a kid through school at 60 grand a year, it's going to cost me $250,000 of education. They better be making bank coming out of it. Otherwise, it's a waste. Okay. So I would get kids to use AI, but not have it like write a book report. I would want them to interact with it, because now you have the collective wisdom of thousands of years of our civilization at their fingertips, and it can satisfy their infinite curiosity. You can put this in the show notes. This is a very nerdy article, but there's a problem called the Bloom 2 Sigma problem. And it's a study of why there has been an exponential decrease in geniuses. And the study finds that people like Marcus Aurelius, famous Stoic philosopher, had like 12 tutors. Charles Darwin has 16 tutors. Einstein had 8 tutors, things like this. But as a parent today, it is both financially and time untenable for you to have multiple tutors for your kids. But with AI, your kid can have an infinite amount of tutors. What the Bloom 2 stigma problem discovered was that kids who had tutors performed 2 standard deviations better than controlled kids at tests, because it allows kids to be immersed in a subject matter for a prolonged period of time with people with deep expertise on that field. You get the same result with AI. And so this is where I would you can create personas for kids to engage with, like a coding persona or a legal one or a German one if they want to learn languages. And now you have all of these tutors at your disposal, and kids can just interact with it. You can literally have GPT create lesson plan for your kids. I'm having GPT teach me Punjabi.
Let's use this as an example. What's the first prompt?
Um, I actually have a prompt to write me prompts. I've engineered a prompt to help write me better prompts because that prompt will write better ones that GPT can engage with and I can. But it would be something like you want to structure it with setting the context first. So who it is that you're going to talk to. You're not talking to an AI, you're talking to an AI that is trained on X, right? So you are you know, you're a language coach or you are a native Punjabi speaker or that is trained in tutoring and helping people, blah, 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 blah. Your task is to help me learn Punjabi. My goal is I have 4 weeks, I have 8 weeks, you will create a lesson plan for me. I have 1 hour a day. You will break this out to me in this. This is what I want. The more specific you are with AIs, the better your outputs are going to be. That's how I'd start.
Right. And this is the human, partly the human component. You need to know what to ask.
Yep.
Or you just ask it to know, ask it what I should be asking.
Yeah, this is one of the questions that the CEO of the bank asked me after our conversations, like, should we be hiring prompt engineers? And my answer is no, because prompt engineering isn't a job, it's a skill. And it would be as insane as saying, we have Erwin at our job, and his job is a Google engineer. If you want to Google anything, you go to Erwin. Like, how stupid is that? Right? And if you think about Excel, everybody knows how to use Excel, but some people know how to use pivot tables and other people don't. And it's going to be the same with AI. Everyone's going to know how to chat GPT. Everyone's going to know how to write prompts, but some people will just write prompts better than other people. And so prompt engineering is a skill. But kids will pick that up quick.
Because they're naturally curious.
Yeah. And that's it.
Nicholas, again, thanks so much for doing this. I have chills.
No worries.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. Go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. The link's also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.